One of the best Duke backcourts of all time joins us live together to talk about Duke. And how about a UConn legend joining us to break down everything from the Huskies that we could ever ask for? And the Lakers keep rolling. Could they roll all the way to the Larry O.P.? We'll break it down. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we're rack, stack, pack, ready to get you caught up on everything from a wild weekend. Look, there's been no sleep. There's been no rest. There will be none of those things because March Madness is absolutely flying, and it doesn't stop. We've got tons of breakdown to come on the women's tournament throughout the course of the show. A lot to get to. But, Caroline, yesterday was the story of buzzer beaters, drama, all of the action we could ever hope for, and more from an incredible day of March Madness action. As much as every single day gave us different storylines, yesterday the storylines were buzzer beaters. We got a couple of them, and down goes Florida. Big seeds going all over the place. So let's just jump right to it. Iowa shocks the world, right? Like we all thought that the size, they got like 87 guys that are 432 feet tall for Florida. We thought that would will them to the Final Four, but Iowa says not so fast, my friend. They get themselves into the Sweet 16 with a huge, huge dramatic win.
I mean, don't blink or you might miss it in March. And that's exactly what that game was for Iowa and Florida. I think it's indicative of a couple of things. One, I think that this game proves that it's really hard to win in March Madness. Like we hear that from coaches all the time. And sometimes we might roll our eyes and say like, okay, like that's a bunch of coach speak. You're just trying to protect your own job. You're just trying to cool down your own seat. But it's really true. It's hard to get into the dance, and it's hard to stay in the dance. And we're talking about Florida, a team that won a national championship last season. We're talking about Florida, who was playing really better than anyone in the country down the stretch. We're talking about Florida, a team full of a lot of guys who have been here before, that understand the pressure cooker that is the NCAA tournament. We're talking about Florida, a 1 seed. We're talking about Florida, a team that I had winning the national championship. Bracket busted. I know nobody cares about my bracket, but it is in fact busted. But I wasn't alone in picking Florida to win the national championship, or at least advance to the Final Four. I think a lot of people were vibing with what Florida was doing coming down the stretch. And now here comes Iowa, a team that I wasn't really paying attention to, frankly. I've paid way more attention to Iowa women's basketball over the last couple of months than I have Iowa men's basketball. But I think it is the perfect example of, one, it's really hard to win in March Madness. And two, anything can happen in this tournament. We've heard a lot about Cinderellas are dead. Oh no, college basketball's ruined forever. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Iowa is a high major. Sure, Iowa plays in the Big Ten. Sure, Iowa is in a Power 4 conference. But that feels pretty Cinderella-y to me. And over the course of 40 minutes in a win or go home type of situation, weird things happen. We saw it in the Vanderbilt game yesterday. We've all seen the still photo of the ball that looks like it's falling into the net. But then, nope, not so fast, my friend. It didn't go in. Like, it's a weird game. Sometimes the ball bounces your way and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have a team on an off day. Sometimes you have a coach on an off coaching day. All of these factors that can culminate into a team that we all had national championship aspirations for falling before the Sweet 16. It's just the perfect example of how weird this tournament is.
If you are trying to sell me on a problem with Cinderellas, I'm not buying. Because here's the thing. I don't care about Cinderellas. I care about entertainment. What I care about are dramatic endings. What I care about are seeing players crying because they won or crying tragically because they lost. I care about seeing somebody crumple to the floor while somebody else jumps up and down in excitement. I care about last second, oh my God, I cannot believe that just happened. I spent yesterday sitting on my couch, and multiple times I jumped up with nobody around just to scream at the television because we got such an epic ending that it reminded me of the magic of what the NCAA tournament is. We want to say that the magic is Cinderella's. The magic to me is drama. And we got all the drama we could ever ask. I don't care where the drama comes from. I don't care if the drama comes from a mid-major school you've never heard of, or if the drama comes from somebody playing from Iowa that you equally never heard of that points to this guy to honor his father that passed when he was 9 years old. Like, that is what March Madness is about. And we got it. We got so much of it in this Florida game particularly. And it's interesting, Caroline, because I came into this week in this tournament telling you, look, if Golden can win back-to-back titles, we need to have a totally different conversation about him. He belongs in the same category as Hurley. I credit coaching a lot. So it is at least curious to me that with just a few seconds remaining, Golden up by 2, even made it clear in the press conference afterwards, they were trying to intentionally foul one of the worst players on the floor to force him to go to the free throw line with the 2-point lead. That was the strategy. The problem is they couldn't get the foul. So all of a sudden, the outlet pass lets the Iowa player just run down the field. Boom, he gets it over, and Figueres hits a massive corner 3 to win this game. So it's interesting to me that as much as I've credited coaching, and in this moment, it's an interesting strategy, a coach that in Golden that has lived and died by analytics. The analytics showed him that up by 2, the right thing to do was to foul whoever they could get on the floor to send them to the line to see if they could meet the moment and make 2 free throws. And that attempt to try and aggressively foul even up by 2, which I think would have driven people crazy, is actually part of what put them in a situation defensively where guys aren't in the right position and all of a sudden Iowa gets that shot. This, to me, is what makes college basketball beautiful. It's what makes the tournament so incredible to watch. It's why I love it. And it's not the only one we got yesterday. St. John's. I mean, St. John's, you've got a player that had not hit a shot, I should say, the entire game. Dylan Darling was 0 for 4 with 4 air balls in this game. And what we get with time going out, with 0.0 seconds left on the clock, we get one of the toughest layups you can imagine, where his arm is not in a position where it should ever create a winning shot, and it does exactly that. St. John's takes down Kansas, and again, Carolina, I don't give a damn if it's St. John's or if it's a school you've never heard of. When you give me that sort of drama, I refuse to buy any argument that there's a problem with college basketball.
Can we just talk about Dylan Darling for a second? I mean, like, that is a superstar name. I mean, of course, Dylan Darling comes to the rescue and saves your season. That's like a Lifetime movie. That's not real. That's incredible. But yeah, to your point, maybe we always think that the best stories from March Madness come from Cinderellas, come from the San Diego States and the FAUs and the Loyola Chicagos and the St. Peters. And look, all of those stories will go down in the NCAA Tournament Hall of Fame. Like, all of those stories we hold so near and dear to our hearts because it's so special and because it is so March Madness. But we get the same level of, regardless of the number attached to the school's name, regardless of who's coaching on the sidelines, regardless of if you have a Hall of Fame coaching you or not. These are still great stories that I think are incredibly easy to fall in love with. And I know it's a different sport, but like, on a year when we had Indiana winning the football national championship, miss me with Cinderellas Are Dead. Miss me with the bigger just getting bigger. And we're talking about college football, which I think is significantly more difficult to establish yourself on the map in college football than it is in college basketball. I've heard the numbers. I've seen the statistics that we only had 4 double-digit seeds advance to the round of 32, and 2 of them were Power Fours. I hear you on that. I understand it. I see the field. I know the historical context to all of it. But I will implore everyone who is so obsessed with this idea that Cinderellas are dead to just take a step back and watch and enjoy the basketball that we're getting. Because sure, do we have a St. Peter's in this year's tournament? No, we don't. We also don't go to St. Peter's every single year. That's what makes the St. Peter's of the world so exciting. Like, let me just say the quiet part out loud here. But you want to tell me that the Nebraska story isn't so incredibly exciting? That going into this tournament, Nebraska had never, ever, as a program, won a single NCAA tournament game. Now here they are with 2 under their belts in this tournament alone, and Nebraska is heading to the Sweet 16. I know they're a 4 seed. I know they're a Power 4 program. I know that they were in the most competitive basketball conference in America this year. I hear you. I know that. I understand. But the Nebraska story is one that I think that you can fall in love with, just the same that we fell in love with FAU and NC State on their ride when they weren't even supposed to be in the tournament, but they found themselves in the Final Four. I think Nebraska is one of those great stories that we can fall in love with. It doesn't have to be from a school that we've never heard of before.
We've got a Nebraska-Iowa game that isn't a football game that matters. Like, just think about that. Like, just the concept of Nebraska,
match.
Iowa. I mean, it's not a wrestling. That's a great call too. Like shout out to the wrestling program at Iowa. You are undefeated for generations. Like, you guys are great. I get it. But to your point, I mean, what's funny to me is that we've got, yes, bigger brands, but we just watched a 1 seed go down. And then on top of that, these are the narratives. This tournament so far to me is in some ways a narrative buster, because the other side of it is, how many times have we heard, again, on the football side, we hear all the time, great coaches are stepping away because, oh my God, they don't even want to be a part of what modern college football has become, which again, I don't care. If it's entertaining, I don't care. Well, what do we see in this NCAA tournament? We are seeing great coaches. We are seeing legendary coaches. We are seeing absolute icons of the game advance. Like, as much as we're sitting here talking about, oh my God, I can't believe what college basketball has become. Okay, look at what we're getting in the East over this Sweet 16 round. In the East, we're getting that matchup. Hurley versus Izzo, inject it in my veins. My God. Oh, and what's the other matchup on that side? St. John's versus Duke. All right, so you got Shire, who's stepped right in all of a sudden and taking on Cal. Like, look across the board. The coaches that we have all over the place right now that are thriving, not just surviving, they're thriving in this landscape. And the coaches are the brands. Like, coaches, as much as we want to talk about, coaches are such a huge part of the brands of how we sell college athletics. So to me, I'm looking around and, my God, I had day one of this tournament, I had all sorts of chaos. Day 2 of this tournament went all chalk. Fine. Day 3, people started to complain. Yesterday, all of a sudden, I get buzzer beaters. I get chaos. I get one shining moment. I've had several one shining moments already in this tournament over the course of the first 4 days. They could play the damn montage right now. So to me, when I'm looking at that and I'm seeing one shining moment over and over and over again, and I'm seeing these big endings, and I'm seeing St. John's in the Final Four for the first time since 1999. Like, these are incredible moments to me that absolutely encapsulate what's been great about it. And at the same time, we've seen Florida go down. And at the same time, we've seen, I think, Michigan stand up and say, ha-ha, for all of you that say there is no greatness in modern college basketball, I will break that narrative too, because Caroline, Michigan has looked like absolute otherworld beasts through the first weekend of this thing.
When the big boys have delivered. I mean, some of the Hall of Fame coaches have absolutely delivered. The big brands have delivered. And I know, we all love Cinderellas. But let's be honest here. Let's be really serious with ourselves. What's a more intriguing matchup? A battle of, let's just say, a game that we just got this past weekend, St. John's and Kansas, Rick Pitino and Bill Self with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line, or insert Cinderella here taking on an absolute behemoth in which the Cinderella has absolutely no chance. Like, we love upsets and we love Cinderellas in the round of 64 and the round of 32. And oh my goodness, this team and this program is going to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever. But let's be honest with ourselves. If there's a battle between two blue bloods in the Sweet 16, or a battle between a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed taking on a 15 seed, which one are you watching? We all love the upsets early in the tournament, but once it gets later in the tournament, at least I can speak for myself. I can't speak for you or anyone else watching. I want the big boys. I want legitimate national championship contenders. And also, let's not forget, well, that being said, let's not forget that we almost had Siena, a program that I had to, you probably had to too, Google where it was, go toe-to-toe with Duke and lead them at half, even though they played 5 players the entirety of 40 minutes. We were so close to probably the most epic upset in the history of the NCAA tournament. And I know we didn't get it, but the fact that we were so close to it, I think, is just proof that this tournament is still alive and well. And sure, it looks different, and sure, it feels a little bit different in this new era of college sports. Everything feels a little bit different. But anything can happen over the course of 40 minutes still. That still exists, NIL or not.
The lowest rated NCAA men's basketball tournament championship game in history, 2023, where UConn beat ... San Diego State. And I will always die on this hill. People say they want They say they want Cinderellas in championship games, but the ratings show that's kind of like people say they watch PBS. They don't actually. All right, one team that's not a Cinderella. Sorry, PBS. One team that is not a Cinderella, obviously, that always comes into every season with expectations is North Carolina. They, again, did not meet that expectation. Hubert Davis does a weekly show, the Hubert Davis appearance. That has been postponed this week. There have been meetings between North Carolina and Hubert Davis. All eyes right now are on Chapel Hill to try and figure out what they're going to do with their head coach, because certainly UNC not advancing was not the way that they planned for the season to go out. Caroline, obviously, they're going to look at it and try and figure out right now, do they have the right person on the sidelines to get them back to where they believe that program should be?
I will ask you, because I know how I feel, but I want to know how you feel. Do you think that North Carolina has the right guy to put them in place to win a national championship?
No, there's something missing. And I don't mean to discredit Hubert Davis, but I think there's something missing, and there's a fire and a connect missing that has. So no, I think, and it's particularly difficult when you see right there John Shire walked in. You never want to be the man that replaces the man unless you are the man, and John Shire's the man. So that's got to be really difficult. Hubert Davis went on a good run 1 year, but I think the more proof of concept we get, the more we realize that was just a hot team. So yeah, I think it's time for change in North Carolina. Doesn't mean that I don't think Hubert Davis isn't a capable coach, but there just feels like there's a disconnect. What do you think?
I don't know what more anyone would need to see to know that Hubert Davis is not the guy to get North Carolina back into national championship contention. I saw all I needed to see in the final minutes against VCU when North Carolina looked confused and discombobulated and they were making silly and dumb mistakes. A lot of that was just coaching in a game where a lot of people were picking VCU to upset North Carolina. And North Carolina didn't look like they were overly motivated and fueled by that for the entirety of 40 minutes. The fact that Hubert Davis's furthest run, and look, Hubert Davis did get this team to a national championship game, but those were Roy Williams teams. At least I can say that now. 4 years removed from that run, and Hubert Davis has missed the tournament entirely, gone to the Sweet 16, but lost in the Sweet 16, and then got bounced in the first round 2 years in a row. Like, I now feel like I have enough of a sample size to say that national championship run was more than the exception than it is the rule. Especially when you're looking down Tobacco Road and you're seeing Duke fresh off of a trip to the Final Four and the number 1 overall seed looking like they are prepped and ready to make yet another run to the Final Four. I've seen all that I need to see. I don't understand why North Carolina would bring Hubert Davis back, understanding that a lot of people probably feel the way that I do. I would assume that North Carolina fans feel the same way that I do, that look, 4 straight years of falling short of expectations. The expectation at North Carolina is championships. You're not going to win a championship every year, but they got sniffed a national championship since they did it in Hubert Davis's first year. I've seen all I need to see. I don't know how you could justify saying that Hubert Davis is the guy to get you there, because what have you seen to say that?
I'll fight for coaches whose teams fight for them, and it didn't feel like North Carolina did that. So time for change in North Carolina. We'll keep you updated if we get any news on that. In the meantime, it was a massive weekend still continuing for the Lakers, who are hot, 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 hot. What's it mean? We'll break it down next.
Criticism like that from a coach in the moment, how are you feeling when that's happening and the film's on screen?
Yeah, man, I think it's you listen more to the message and not the tone of the message. I mean, I think it's actually better to get called out than to not, because it shows not only like you're not worried about getting your feelings hurt. Like, they're not worried about hurting my feelings. And that's something I love about our coach. Like, he's not really worried about hurting your feelings. He's going to tell you, shoot it to you straight. And for me, like, I've always thrived under coaches that do that.
We are ranking the biggest robberies in MLS histories, the players who looked at their team owners and said, thanks for the cash, and gave absolutely nothing in return. If your team is on this list, we are very, very sorry. Danielson, FC Dallas. His contract was for $879,000.
If you're watching this, look at his photo. He don't even look interested to be there in the photo.
With 10 appearances, he effectively got nearly $100,000 per game.
I'm sitting there watching Unreal, and they're talking about you in WWE at the Royal Rumble, just being thrown into the ring. You ever getting back in the ring for one of those opportunities again after that injury?
Man, I don't know. I mean, we got WrestleMania coming up, so you maybe see me in there, you maybe not. I'm just not trying to get beat up, but we'll see. We'll see. Like I got beat up too much times. I can't. My body can't take that anymore.
Little teaser from the one and only Nate Diaz, unfinished business. And then he expanded on that on Twitter and said, I'll see you soon. I'm coming.
What about Dustin? Dustin versus Nate. Big fight. That could be a co-main or a main for a big fight card.
One that we always wanted to see.
One that Dustin has said, that'll get me out of retirement. The UFC could use him more than ever. They need stars now.
The Lakers basically never lose anymore. Even when you got Luke Kennard out there just absolutely being able to do his thing. If you watch this here, heaves it down, can't go in. Kennard with the game winner. And LeBron said he knew exactly that's the way it was going to go. 105-104 is the win for the Lakers, but significant because it's their 9th straight. Look at that joy. Look at that joy from LeBron right there. Like, we say all these things during the course of a season where we want players to care. It is clear he does at this point, and it's clear that the Lakers are riding a hot streak. So we're going to do triple threat, one of our favorite things to do on this show, where we give you a take, and then we shoot, pass, or dribble on a couple of different NBA takes. So shoot if we love it, pass if we're staying away from it, dribble if we're cowards and we need more time. So let's go with the scorching hot Lake show. 9 straight games, absolutely no joke. So the Thunder have won 11 straight, though, okay? So we're going to be a prisoner of the moment. The Lakers can win the Larry O.B. What do you think, Caroline? You're going to shoot, pass, or dribble? Lakers winning it all.
I'll dribble on that because I do think the Lakers' path is somebody else in the West does the seemingly impossible and takes down the Oklahoma City Thunder before the Lakers have to play them. That's, I think, the path for any team in the West not named OKC. It's for something wild and weird and wacky and crazy to happen. Now, knock on wood, we never, wish for bad things to happen to anyone, but something weird and wacky and crazy happens for whatever team takes on OKC in the beginning of the postseason, and they go down, and all of a sudden it feels incredibly wide open. That is the only path for the Lakers. So I dribble on that, saying that that's not a probability, but a possibility, because anything can happen in the postseason. But as long as the Thunder are in the postseason, I don't see anyone, Lakers included, getting to the NBA Finals past OKC.
Yeah, see, here's the problem. I'm going to pass on this. I don't think that they're winning the championship. I'm consistent on this. It doesn't mean that they've not gotten much better, and they have, right? Like, it's fine. Winning 9 games in a row is impressive. But again, OKC has won 11. And if that's not enough for you, how about the fact that San Antonio's won 21 of the last 23? So, yes, they haven't won 9 in a row, but they've won 21 of the last 23. In fact, the Lakers on a 9-game win streak are still 10 games back of Oklahoma City right now. That just to give you an idea of how different this season has gone. Now, this could be where you say, well, yeah, the Lakers started slow. Okay, that's fine. The Thunder, have been consistent all year long. So while I make a big deal out of a 9-game winning streak, I guess my question is, are we turning around for the Knicks, who are on a 6-game winning streak, and saying, oh, the Knicks are headed to the NBA Finals? Like, no. There is a spot here where the Lakers, look, they're playing really lights out. We've credited J.J. Redick, I think rightfully so. We've credited plenty of different reasons why this thing is turned around offensively for sure. In a 7-game series, are they better than Wemby? My answer to that is no. In a 7-game series, are they deeper than OKC? My answer to that is no. In a 7-game series, are they better than Denver? I don't think so. So, look, this is not me being a Lakers hater. This is just me being a Lakers realist. I think there's too many stumbling blocks and too many great teams ahead of the Lakers who are playing better, but they're not hoisting the Larry O.B. How about this one? We'll see if we can get Caroline to shoot or pass here. She's a coward so far, 0 for 1. LeBron notches another record. Well, I'm just saying, this is a biggie, big record. Most games played in NBA history. He passes Robert Parrish. Shoot, pass, or dribble on this. People are still taking LeBron James for granted. What say you?
LeBron James.
That's the truth. Again, I'm going to dribble on it. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling very committal this morning. I will dribble on that because I do believe there's probably a fraction of NBA fans that are We see what LeBron can do at 41 years old. We saw the dunks, last week. He had 5 insane dunks. But there are probably people that don't acknowledge the fact that LeBron is 41 years old and has 20 plus years of service in the NBA, and what he is doing is absolutely otherworldly and special. We'll be telling our kids and our kids' kids about watching LeBron James one day. But also, like, here we are talking about LeBron James on a Monday morning, fresh off of March Madness, fresh off of a lot of, crazy things that have happened in sports. There is still a level of anytime LeBron does anything, it is more interesting and will command more eyeballs than anyone else in the NBA doing anything. So I kind of go both ways about it, that I do feel like there is LeBron fatigue to a certain extent in the NBA, or at least, LeBron did something amazing and incredible. Okay, yeah, we're used to that because he's been doing that the entirety of my lifetime. But also in that same breath, LeBron is still LeBron, and anything LeBron does or says is news and will make headlines. So I dribble on that because I don't know. I don't think that I have a definitive feeling one way or another.
I am very definitive that I think that the LeBron era is being taken for granted. And here's but it's not unique to just LeBron. As a society, we tend to just fall in love with players when they're no longer playing, right? Like when Tom Brady was still on the field, how many people sat there and said, well, is it Brady or is it Belichick? And then Brady stops playing and people get territorial with it. It's the same thing that we're doing with LeBron. When you are still a player, people aren't yet territorial with your legacy. They are once you stop playing. And I don't know why we refuse to appreciate greatness when we see it, but that just seems to be the way the world is. Whether LeBron is your GOAT or not, I believe one thing very strongly, and something Caroline just referenced. In 20, 30 years, we're all going to be the unks sitting on the front porch telling our grandkids, no, this young buck you're talking about here, he's not that good. I watched LeBron James. That's what we're going to be saying, because we refuse to accept it while it's happening. While it's happening, it becomes, is LeBron better than Michael Jordan? I'm not sure, right? Like, that's what we do during this era. I don't love it, but it's just inevitable. Once somebody stops playing, I feel like that's when everybody starts to get territorial with what they saw and what connected with them, which is why in 20, 30 years, many of the people, keep your receipts. Like in a social media world, I want you to keep the receipts, print them out right now. And then, however we actually view receipts in 30 years, whatever that way is, you'll ask your house to show it to you. You'll be able to see the same people that are today saying, LeBron's overrated. LeBron's played so many games, he's a stat compiler, whatever the argument is. Those same people in 30 years are going to be sitting there saying, no. I watched LeBron James, and he was amazing. We have to wait for his career to end to fully appreciate it. That's the way we do it with all athletes. But how about full appreciation for Luka? Over the last 9 games, all wins. My guy averaging 40 points, 8.4 rebounds, 7.4 assists. Only Wilt has put up those level of numbers. So, shoot, pass, or dribble. Luka, better MVP numbers than SGA. Ooh.
I mean, Luka does have better numbers. Okay, let's acknowledge the obvious. Numbers don't lie. Luka's averaging more points per game. Luka's averaging more rebounds per game. Luka is averaging more assists per game. But I pass on that. Because I think there's one statistic that you conveniently left out there, Fitzy, and a statistic that I think matters in the MVP conversation. The fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder have won 10 more games than the Lakers. That matters. The fact that that OKC feels like the big, bad, unbeatable force in the NBA, that matters. And SGA being the key cog that keeps that motor moving, that matters. So yes, Luka has better numbers. Yes, Luka has better stats where things stand right now. But SGA is the best player on the best team in the NBA. And I rest my case there.
Yeah, right now, by the way, Vegas agrees with you. SGA minus 1,100, Luke plus 1,200. So better value to go out there and try and get Luka. Again, things I can't control, but things I accept inevitably in life. Narratives matter. And when we came into this season, There wasn't a narrative that was turning around saying Luka's about to be the MVP. Now, I'm not an MVP voter. And if I was an MVP voter, narratives wouldn't matter to me. But they do matter to the people that have those votes. And sometimes it's almost like this momentum. How often have we heard somebody talked about it that plays in the NBA saying, next year he's going to be a hot candidate for the MVP? It's like we accept that it takes this whole avalanche snowball rolling approach. Luka right now is playing better basketball than anybody in the NBA today, right now, during this 9-game win streak. I think that can be fully true. Stop, period. That's it. But does that make him the MVP? To your point, SGA is on a team that's absolutely killing it, that has been murdered with injuries throughout the course of this entire season. So I want to give SGA full love. Also, I'm not sure that Luka necessarily gets as much benefit of the doubt because of the way sometimes Luka sort of acts on the court, whether that's right or wrong. That's just the way that some people perceive it. And then on top of all of that, Luka's late to the party. So I think SGA is going to be the MVP, but I think at the same time, maybe we are underappreciating a little bit of the excellence of what we're seeing from Luka. Let's see what it translates to in the playoffs. In the meantime, we're going to get back to the NCAA tournament. From the women's side of it, we'll bring on Sydney Parrish, expert, going to help us break all of the action down next.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
Do you feel pressure that this is America's birthday, this is the White House, you have to represent?
Hell yeah. I do feel pressure. I feel pressure that, I got to go out there and represent for the United States, and I got to go out there and I feel like I'm going to be expected to go out there and win this fight. I'll probably be a favorite. There's pressure right there too. I put pressure myself. I need to finish. It's been too long.
Mike Washington, speed score wonder, good size, just downhill in a hurry, but just can never quite make that safety miss unless he just runs past him.
He blew up because of the combine, and people were like, wow, who is this? And he has everything that, sleeper running backs people fall in love with, the size, the speed. There's usually a handful of guys like this. In this year's class, there's actually not a ton of guys like this that maybe boosted his stock a round or so.
The Dallas Mavericks, are they still taking Cooper Flagg, Corey?
He is legitimately, as a 6'8" wing who does everything at a high level. Shows up every day, competes his ass off.
The way his handle has improved since high school to Duke to now suggests that this guy can be a MVP candidate, not just a multi-time All-Star as a role player, a high-end star role player, but a mega star.
Oh, I'll turn my microphone on. I'll figure out how to do this. All right. Texas absolutely destroys Oregon. In a statement, went for them 100-58. We're going to break that down now with everything and all the action from the course of the tournament on the women's side. Sydney Parrish of the Big Ten Network joins us. Sydney, sorry, you played at Oregon before you transferred to Indiana. So let's start there. How impressive was Texas for you?
Extremely impressive, but I think we knew that just coming into this game and coming into the tournament that they've proven that they're one of the best teams in the country. I mean, they're the single team that has beat UCLA this year, and I think that just really proves how talented they are. But going into this game, Oregon's defense is one of the top defenses, most disciplined defenses in the Big Ten. And Texas continued to put up 100 points on them. Madison Booker, like you see, 40 points, 8 rebounds, one of the best players in the country. They just put on an offensive masterpiece yesterday.
Which you don't hear a lot from Texas. We're accustomed to hearing defensive masterpiece from Vic Schaefer and company. So the fact that they're adding offense with their elite defense, I think makes this team so incredibly terrifying. But we do have, the big bad UConn Huskies that are still unbeaten, haven't lost a game since last February. We have UCLA that, it looks incredible, looks unbeatable, and a team that has a lot of postseason experience. So my question for you, Sydney. Are you taking UConn and UCLA or the field in a national championship matchup?
I have to say UConn, UCLA. I think they're the two best teams in the country. UConn is so deep because of the players. They know their roles. They have their star players, AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong, but then the other players around them, they know their roles. They don't try and do too much. And then UCLA, right now, I think they are the most talented group from top to bottom. They are having right now they're saying that their starters plus one player off the bench are all going to get drafted in this WNBA upcoming draft. They are so talented. So if Lauren Betts is getting doubled or Kiki Rice is not having a great shooting day, there's going to be other players on that UCLA team that are going to step up and play hard. But I am so excited because I want to see this matchup between UConn and UCLA in the national championship game. There was arguments that UCLA should have been the #1 overall seed. I think UConn deserved it because they were undefeated and they proved themselves to have that #1 overall seeding. But these two teams are going to meet up, and that's really what's going to make the call.
So which #1 seed do you think is the most vulnerable at this point?
That's so hard to say because the #1 seeds, I have all of them going to the Final Four. I think the 4 teams that are the #1 seeds are the best teams in the country, and the only people that can, or the only teams that can beat them are the other #1 seeds. The most vulnerable, I don't even know if you can say it's vulnerable because they're so dominant in their field. So far, these 4 teams that have played so far, Texas has won by an average of 42 points. UCLA has won by 53. UConn won by 38. And South Carolina won by 69 points. So if that doesn't prove how talented these top 4 seeds or these top 4 teams are, I really don't know what does.
Yeah, I mean, I think important to remember too, if you're new to the women's game, welcome, happy to have you. But they're just there's not as much like Cinderella crazy upsets. The women's game is so much more chalky, and it does feel like these 4 1 seeds are the 4 best teams in the country. But with that being said, we still have had some great performances from the non-1 seeds, dominant performances. Which has been the most impressive non-1 seed so far, in your opinion?
I think yesterday, Minnesota's win against Ole Miss was just an amazing game, so much fun. I think both of these teams are so unique with the style of play. Ole Miss is so amazing with Cody McMahon leading them. She's used to the Big Ten. She knows what it takes to play against teams like Minnesota. But then going up against them, I thought Ole Miss had this game. I thought that they were going to win down the stretch, but Minnesota came back in that 4th quarter, and they just showed that they were such a team that stuck together. This is a team that's been together since their freshman year, Minnesota kids. It was just so fun to see them get that win yesterday and go to the Sweet 16 because I don't think anybody coming into the season would have expected Minnesota to be a team in the Sweet 16.
All right, so what about some players? Who has specifically stood out to you in a way that's had you jumping off your couch and clapping?
I got to say Virginia's Kimora Johnson. She's somebody that I think has proven herself to be one of the best players in this tournament. She's already played 2 games because they had to play that first 4 game. And then when she goes into that second game against Georgia, she's proven herself. She had 28, 7, and 6. And in the first game against ASU, she had 17, 10, and 5. It was super impressive. And she is not just coming to play games. She's coming to win.
All right, so I want your expertise then because we've covered this sport for a while, right? And I think we're seeing more talent than ever in women's college basketball all the way across the board. It's evident. There's so many talented players. Why, at the same time that we're getting more talent than ever across the country, are we still seeing such dominance from just a few programs?
Well, I think that there is still that disparity between, let's say, a 1 seed and a 16 seed. There's not much competition between the two, but I think it's because with recruiting and how it's going these days, you're trying to stack your teams up. People are going to the best teams in the country and trying to make these powerhouse schools because players want to win national championships at the end of the day. And we're seeing that with the Texas, the South Carolinas, the UCLAs. The transfer portal is why these teams are so loaded because they are looking players right now that are, let's say, mid-major. The top players in the mid-major programs are transferring to go to these powerhouse schools because they want to win national championships. So these bench players now on these national championship contender teams are players that could go anywhere else in the country and be star players on their team. So I think that's really why there's such a disparity between the 1 seeds or the top 4 seeds and then kind of the rest of the seeds in the tournament.
Yeah, it's different than the men's side of things. It doesn't mean there's less excitement. It just means it's a different kind of path for roster construction on the women's side of things. I do also want to point out Michigan. They were up by 3 yesterday against NC State and then end up winning that game by 30. We saw Silas Swords and Olivia Olson absolutely go off. Do you think Michigan is a threat in that side of the bracket?
I do. I actually was concerned about their draw at first because they had to play the winner of NC State and Tennessee, and I didn't know how their style of play would line up against each other. But when NC State won and Zoe Brooks, their star player, went down, I had a feeling that then Michigan was going to beat NC State, and now they're going to make a run. And I think they're going to meet up with Texas and really give them a run for their money.
Oh, Fitz is muted.
There we go. I'm going to figure out how to keep my microphone unmuted. We'll see. Sydney, I was watching the TCU game last night go into overtime, which on the East Coast we did not appreciate. But that game going into overtime, being at TCU, was a reminder to me of how incredible home court is and the fact that we have that in the women's tournament. How did that play out in your eyes?
Well, of course, I think everyone's complaining right now about the home court advantages because in the women's tournament, if you're a top 4 seed, you get to host the first 2 rounds, and that gives you so much of an advantage. Your home crowd, you get to sleep in your own bed, you don't have to travel, you get to eat whatever food you want to fuel yourself before the games. It is such an advantage. But you saw down the stretch, TCU went to Olivia Miles, and Olivia Miles proved herself to be a very, very high pick in this WNBA draft. She was scoring at will. She was passing to all of her teammates whenever she had an open eye. Her passes that she was making, I could not even believe it. If I were to play on Olivia Miles' team, it would be so challenging because I don't think you know when she's going to pass you the ball. But she was so special at the end of that game. When they went into overtime, I thought to myself, oh, there's no way TCU isn't going to win this game because they have Olivia Miles on their team.
I mean, that hook pass, basically no look.
It's insane.
The court vision, ridiculous. Yeah. I do want to go back really quickly. You just mentioned the NC State-Tennessee game. I want to hit on the Lady Vols. They finished the season on an 8-game losing streak. For the first time ever in program history, they didn't win a single game in March. You've been in these locker rooms before. You've lived this sport. Take me into the Tennessee locker room. How would you be feeling right now for a program with incredibly sky-high expectations?
Well, I think that's the main thing. This program has the highest expectations from any program in the country because of what Coach Pat Summitt made it to be. So going into that locker room, I don't know what was said. I don't know the chemistry between the coach, the players. You read all the stuff online. You really don't know what's going on inside that locker room. But I know these players are competitive, and I know they're coming into March and they want to win every single game. So all the narratives of people saying, oh, they're just trying to get done with their season. No, these players want to win. You aren't coming into the NCAA March Madness tournament. This is something these girls dream of. They want to win these games. And I think this team and this coach, they need to go back to the drawing boards and figure out how to win games, how to put together a roster, and they need to figure out that offensive scheme because they're going from hockey subbing 5 in, 5 out to then not doing it. You can't get in a groove. I think that's extremely challenging for these players to figure out.
All right, Sydney, you told us earlier you have all 4 number 1 seeds going to the Final Four. So how does this whole thing play out for you?
Well, I think it's going to be UCLA, UConn in the championship game. And I actually could not tell you who I think is going to win. All season long, I have thought UCLA. I have thought UCLA, they're the best team. They're the deepest. They're the best. But their first round game against Cal Baptist, their first half, they did not look like a national championship contender team. They came out slow. They came out flat. They were not guarding the 3-point line. And they also showed that in the Big Ten tournament against Washington. They did not come out with that spark, with that energy. So I think that's going to be something that sets them back a little bit. I think they're going to pull out the wins to get to the national championship. But I think they're going to have to step it up another level if they're wanting to win a national championship.
If you could only have one of those coaches for one game, you got one game, you got to win it all. You got to pick one coach out of those 4. Who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to go with Coach Staley. I have so much respect for her and her program. I've gotten to play against her the last 2 years in the NCAA tournament. South Carolina is the team that knocked us out. And her ability down the stretch in games to coach her team and to figure out how to defend it's so special. But of course, I would love to be coached by Gino as well. I think that's something that, like, how cool to be coached by Gino Auriemma in a March Madness tournament.
Oh, Sydney, you danced around that perfectly because it was a really tough question. I tried to pin you. Sydney. Great stuff by you. We can follow her on Instagram at Sydney_Parrish, hanging out with us. Sydney, we really appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back. Thanks for the insight. Thanks for all the expertise on the tournament.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
Great
Sydney.
stuff from Sydney. And a great tournament so far. Coming up, it's a big day for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. We'll get you some breaking news next.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, his speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
Do you feel pressure that this is America's birthday, this is the White House, you have to represent?
Hell yeah. I do feel pressure. I feel pressure that, I got to go out there and represent for the United States, and I got to go out there and I feel like I'm going to be expected to go out there and win this fight. I'll probably be a favorite. There's pressure right there too. I put pressure on myself. I need to finish. It's been too long.
Mike Washington, speed score wonder, good size, just downhill in a hurry, but just can never quite make that safety miss unless he just runs past him.
He blew up because of the combine, and people were like, wow, like, who is this? And he has everything that, sleeper running backs people fall in love with, the size, the speed. There's usually a handful of guys like this. In this year's class, there's actually not a ton of guys like this that maybe boosted his stock a round or so.
The Dallas Mavericks, are they still taking Cooper Flagg, Corey?
He is legitimately, as a 6'8" wing who does everything at a high level, shows up every day, competes his ass off.
The way his handle has improved since high school to Duke to now suggests that this guy can be a MVP candidate, not just a multi-time All-Star as a role player, a high-end star role player, but a mega star.
Breaking news here at Yahoo Sports Daily. Adam Schefter has tweeted out ESPN sources Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl champion Jaxon Smith-Njigba reaches agreement with the Seattle Seahawks on a, get ready for this, 4 years, $168.6 million contract extension that now makes him the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. The deal averages, check it, does the math, wasn't good at this in school, Shefty did it for me, $42.15 million per year. The market was just reset at the wide receiver position. This, Caroline, is why I say all the time, if you believe that you've got a young player that is a star, hell, you've got any player that's a star, get back to the market, get the contract, get the extension, because the market changes so incredibly high, so constantly. If you wait, man, now all of a sudden every wide receiver that's about to get paid just got a new line in the sand of what the best of the best get. 4 years, $168 million. Love this for JSN.
Yeah, that's a lesson that feels pretty obvious to you and to me, but not really to Jerry Jones. If you don't tap dance on signing contracts, then you won't have to dish out as much money, Jerry. But also, this is an important reminder that although I do believe that Jaxon Smith-Njigba is one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, I put him in the same tier as Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, C.D. Lamb, some of the best in Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, some of the best receivers in the National Football League. He's very squarely belongs in that tier. Just a reminder for the next receiver who we don't believe belongs in that tier, that gets this tier kind of money. It's a reminder that he's not the best, he's just the next one. That's the market in the National Football League for any position, receiver, quarterback, you name it. that it's the next guy up. The next guy up pushes up the market, not necessarily the best one on the market. I mean, look at some of the highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. It's not the Patrick Mahomeses and the Joe Burrows that are making the most money, although they're making a healthy chunk of change. It's the quarterbacks who just got paid. So I think it's right, and I think it's fair that JSN resets the wide receiver market because he deserves it. He has earned it. And I also want to give credit where credit is due to the Seahawks organization for not just getting this deal done while they did it and making sure that they're not going to have to dish out the probably $45 million that we're going to approach that kind of range for an elite tier 1, certified number 1 receiver, but for paying your superstars. I mean, when I was shocked when the Seahawks didn't pay Kenneth Walker III, but here they are paying a certified superstar who I think will be a cornerstone for the Seahawks organization moving forward. Good on them for getting this deal done.
This is also a reminder of the benefit you get when you hit on a reclamation project at the quarterback position. This year, coming into this season, Sam Darnold will be the 8th highest paid quarterback in the NFL with a cap hit of around $38 million. All right, that is $10 million less than Matt Stafford at the top of the list. If you go into 2027 on the Sam Darnold contract as it currently exists, he'll be about the 9th highest paid quarterback. So when you hit on a reclamation project at the quarterback and you have a long-term deal done with them that allows you the flexibility and the opportunity, yeah, they might want to rework something with Sam too. But frankly, they get the opportunity to do Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and you see it. It ties him to the next 6 years because this is an extension added on to his rookie deal. When you start to do that and you look at what the numbers look like, because they have hit on a reclamation project at the quarterback position, they have a little bit more flexibility. I'm not somebody that sits here and says, by the way, loudly, you cannot pay your quarterbacks and win. That is a fallacy that's been spread throughout the course of the league that is actually statistically not true. You cannot find a single indication of a team paying their quarterback and that being the reason that they lose. If you look at the splits over the last 15 years on teams that have won with or without paying their quarterback, it's about 50-50. So the numbers don't actually support that you can't pay your quarterback. But you do see some flexibility that gives you the opportunity to go to the market. Seattle had to make some tough choices this offseason with Kenneth Walker III, but now we see some of why those tough choices come. And frankly, if you're locking in JSN for the next 6 years, what you're really doing is you're just taking care of this player. Like where he is in 6 years, God only knows, and who cares? If you're Seattle, you can't even think that far ahead. But you've taken care of that entire variable. So it's no longer on your mindset. So now you can just lock that, throw away the key, and say, hey, that's all set. But this is, Caroline, some flexibility that they get because they got Sam Darnold and they gave themselves the opportunity to get other contract flexibility, knowing that they're paying a quarterback, but they aren't paying a quarterback.
They're paying a quarterback, but they're not paying a quarterback $50 million. Like Sam Darnold's getting legitimate starting quarterback money, but he's not getting top of the market quarterback money. But I also view the Seahawks paying Jaxon Smith-Njigba, it's like an insurance policy. I mean, just because you don't have the most expensive car out there doesn't mean that you're not going to get good insurance for it. Just because you don't drive, a Maserati doesn't mean that you're going to get, the cheapest insurance that you can find. No, you're going to protect your investments, even if it's not the most expensive investment out there on the market. I view the Seahawks paying Jaxon Smith-Njigba not just paying a player what he deserves, not just paying a player top of the market money because he means that much to the organization, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I view, is also one of the best insurance claims that you can take out on the investment that you made into the quarterback position. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that Sam Darnold's career reclamation came in the form of throwing to Justin Jefferson and throwing to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I also think that works both ways. I think we also saw a career, not a renaissance, that's not the right word. We saw Jaxon Smith-Njigba really break out and solidify himself as a top-tier receiver in this league, having Sam Darnold as quarterback. I think that's important to point out as well. But I think that paying Jaxon Smith-Njigba locks him up as a tool and as a weapon for Sam Darnold. You get the most out of Sam Darnold. You maximize Sam Darnold and whoever your quarterback is for the future. I'm not going to act like Sam Darnold's going to be in Seattle until 2030. Maybe he is, but maybe not. But what Jaxon Smith-Njigba allows you to do is give your quarterback one of the best weapons that the National Football League can provide.
Also, a little context here. 5 years ago, the NFL salary cap was $208.2 million. So every NFL team had $208.2 million to spend. The salary cap this year, 5 years later, is $301.2 million. That's a $100 million increase over the course of the last 5 years. Now, on top of that, something that Charles Robinson has said repeatedly on Inside Coverage, which you should check out on the Yahoo Sports Network, is that we have to remember the renegotiation of these media contracts that has been widely reported and is, according to many, going to happen right now to kick in as soon as this year to allow them to sell more TV games. The renegotiation of that contract will bring in more revenue. More international games means more revenue. The possibility of an 18th game means more revenue. And what does all of that mean? It means more revenue to spend. The salary cap is based on the total revenue earned by the league. So while we're sitting here saying, oh my God, look at this epic money, $40 million for a wide receiver, who would imagine it? I just want to remind the world that we've seen a 50% increase basically to go from 200 to 300 million in 5 years. It is not impossible that the salary cap is going to do that and more over the course of the next 4 years. By the time we get to the end of this Jaxon Smith-Njigba deal, we could be looking at a $500 million salary cap for every single team in the NFL, simply because the TV money will continue to increase the amount of money the teams have to spend. So now when you've got teams looking at it that may have 3 or 4 years ago budgeted for a certain amount of money to spend per position, they can start throwing that out the window. What we see consistently right now are teams saying, if I've got a star, I will lock up that star, whatever it takes. And I'll worry about the salary cap on it later because, frankly, the salary cap keeps exploding. That's why a year from now, when everybody, ourselves included, are a month before free agency and we're running around saying, oh, my God, look at this free agency class. Well, more often than not, guys don't hit the street that actually matter because there's too much money to spend. So it makes so much when you put the financials in. I know I'm being, nerdy, logical Larry here, but when you do that, when you put the nerd glasses on and you look at the numbers, locking up JSN at $40 million a year is a no-brainer because, Caroline, to your point, he is one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. They are in a Super Bowl window right now. They're coming off of a championship. They're looking at the budgets and saying, hey, salary cap is exploding. They've got the money to spend, and they want to reward one of the guys from home. If they look around and say, who's the one person we have to make sure we keep on this team, I have no problem with them saying that one person is JSN and paying him like that. So I think this, though, is the beginning of an era where we're going to see a bunch of guys start to get paid wild money to continually reset the market. Again, all the more reason to get ahead of that reset.
The numbers that you just laid out, and that's what, a 50% increase in the salary cap over the span of 4 years. With that logic and with those numbers, you could make the argument that Jaxon Smith-Njigba was underpaid. Like, with his brand new, fresh contract as the highest paid receiver in the National Football League, like, there's an argument to be made with a $300 million salary cap that Jaxon Smith-Njigba actually deserves more. I think there's a very fair argument to be made that there's no one person more important to the Seahawks organization on the field than Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And look, we can debate that all day long. Is it Nick Immanwori? Is it anyone on the defensive line? Is it Sam Darnold? Like, we can talk about that all day long. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is in the conversation. But it's obvious. It's so obvious. And look, we praise John Schneider a lot on this show, and we have, and rightfully so, because John Schneider, the general manager in Seattle, they've hit in the draft. They've hit in free agency. They hit at the most important position on the field in Sam Darnold. He won a championship, for crying out loud, and he did it while competing in the most competitive and deep division in the National Football League. But I don't really think we should be singing, the praises of John Schneider today, because he did the most obvious thing that was so clear to any and all of us, and that is lock that man up for as long as you possibly can, because Jaxon Smith-Njigba has done what you expect from any first-round pick in the NFL draft, and that is change the course of a franchise.
I want to remind everybody that Max Crosby signed an extension with the Raiders in March 2025 that made him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, right? Highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL in March 2025. It was $35 million a year-ish. As we sit right now, in March of 2026, a year later, he's the fourth highest paid edge rusher in the NFL. So the headlines went out a year ago right now that Max Crosby was the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Now, that didn't even include Jamar Chase, who went and made more money. So all of a sudden when you start looking, it just reminds you how quickly once we see a number, if a wide receiver is worth $42 million a year, it's not just the wide receivers that win. It's everybody. Like if you're a quarterback right now and you're about to get paid, you're looking around saying, okay, well, $42 million is what a wide receiver gets. What's a quarterback worth? Like in a world where we're sitting here talking about Lamar Jackson needing to do a long-term deal with the Ravens, you can't tell me that Lamar, who doesn't have an agent, isn't sitting there saying, well, if the wide receivers are worth 42, how am I not worth 62? I'm a quarterback. Like we are not that far off from an era where quarterbacks are going to make $100 million a year, and that's just gonna be inevitable. It's inevitable. We're the way we're seeing these numbers explode. I don't see how we don't get to a $100 million quarterback in the next few years.
I mean, a $40 million quarterback feels like a bargain. I remember it was not that long ago that when a quarterback made $40 million, it was like, what? That's the richest man in America. Now $40 million for a quarterback, it's like, man, that's a bargain there. That's a cheap quarterback. Better capitalize on that when you're not investing a lot of money into the quarterback position. Wild how the salary cap has ballooned.
I would just remind everybody when they hate on players for getting paid. You know who's richer than the $100 million quarterback? The guy that can afford to pay the $100 million quarterback. That's just a reminder. At the end of the day, $100 million is basically what Jerry's yacht gas bill for the year. All right, so that's the breaking news in the NFL. We'll keep you updated with any other breaking news we get on this Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Congratulations, highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Coming up next, we will get back to women's college basketball with the legend Diana Taurasi going to join the show next.
Criticism like that from a coach in the moment, how are you feeling when that's happening and the film's on screen?
Yeah, man, I think it's you listen more to the message and not the tone of the message. I mean, I think it's actually better to get called out than to not, because it shows not only like you're not worried about getting your feelings hurt. Like they're not worried about hurting my feelings. And that's something I love about our coach. Like he's not really worried about hurting your feelings. He's going to tell you, shoot it to you straight. And for me, like I've always thrived under coaches that do that.
We are ranking the biggest robberies in MLS histories, the players who looked at their team owners and said, thanks for the cash, and gave absolutely nothing in return. If your team is on this list, we are very, very sorry. Danielson, FC Dallas. His contract was for $879,000.
If you're watching this, look at his photo. He don't even look interested to be there in the photo.
With 10 appearances, he effectively got nearly $100,000 per game.
I'm sitting there watching Unreal, and they're talking about you in WWE at the Royal Rumble, just being thrown into the ring. You ever getting back in the ring for one of those opportunities again after that injury?
Man, I don't know. I mean, we got WrestleMania coming up, so you maybe see me in there, you maybe not. I'm just not trying to get beat up, but we'll see. We'll see. Like I got beat up too much times. My body can't take that anymore.
Little teaser from the one and only Nate Diaz, unfinished business. And then he expanded on that on Twitter and said, I'll see you soon. I'm coming.
What about Dustin? Dustin versus Nate. Big fight. That could be a co-main or a main for a big fight card.
One that we always wanted to see.
One that Dustin has said, that'll get me out of retirement. The UFC could use him more than ever. They need stars now.
Diana Taurasi in March. During her tenure with UConn, the Huskies were 139-8 and won 3 consecutive national championships, including their undefeated 2002 season. We use the words legend and icon too often, but it is absolutely appropriate now. 3-time WNBA champion, 6-time Olympic gold medalist. The list goes on and on. Diana Taurasi joining us on behalf of Greenies. We'll get to Greenies in just a second. We are very pro-dog on this show. We love it. But we have to start with that, with UConn women's basketball. Absolutely iconic. They have a chance to join a handful of other UConn teams to go undefeated. Can they do it?
I think so. I would say they're the favorites. I think they've been the best team all year. And if you think what they've done this year, if you think about it, they won a championship last year. They lose the best player in college. And then you transition to an undefeated season. It's just incredible what they're doing.
absolutely incredible. You lose Paige Beckers, and then, oh yeah, by the way, you just refresh with maybe the other best player in college basketball right now in Sarah Strong. It's not rebuild, it's reload every single year at UConn. And they're trying to do something that you did. You won 3 straight titles. This team's trying to win back to back. How hard is it, not just to win one, but to follow up a championship season with yet another championship?
Well, I think the hardest part about it is you think it's going to go the same as the last year, but in reality, you might have the same core of players, but everyone comes in with a different mindset. And I think that's the most challenging thing is you might have the same exact players, but everyone's in a different space. And I think that's what Coach Rima does the best. He understands where everyone is, and he gets them just to push all in the same way. And, it's no secret that the way he coaches and what he demands out of you as a player is what pushes these teams to greatness.
Diana, I heard Coach Hurley on the men's side after the game said wearing the UConn jerseys heavy in the first round. And I immediately thought of you guys because wearing the UConn jersey when you are part of the women's team comes with expectations. How heavy is that?
Oh, it's huge. And I think that's why we have so much pride and honor in wearing it. Not only that, the kids that commit in the future. When I went there, we had just won 2 championships. Rebecca Lobo in 95, and I want to say that 2000 team that won it in Philly. So, when I got there, it was relatively that this energy was new. I mean, these kids are going there, and they have to put that jersey on. They go into that practice facility, and they look up, and it's like 40 All-Americans. You're like, what am I going to do here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a very large shadow that's cast on that program, and yet there still seems to be stars that step up and kind of carve out their own legacy year over year. We saw Paige Beckers do it last year, of course, and part of that is because of Gino Ariema's coaching. You brought that up. It's one thing to create a dynasty. It's another thing to have success in so many different eras of basketball, and especially now, NIL transfer portal. Gino's mastered that too. How is that? What is it about Gino Ariema that makes him such a special coach?
Yeah. I think about that all the time, and I text him all the time. I'm like, Coach, aren't you bored? And there is no one I've ever met that is more competitive than him. At the end of the day, he's just competitive. He wants to beat everyone. He wants to be the best coach in the country. He wants to have the best players. He wants to have the best team. It's really simple for him. 11, 13, 14, he wants to win 20 national championships. He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, he's not. And I think that probably sends shivers down the spines of everyone in Columbia, South Carolina, and at UCLA and at all of these other powerhouse programs. What's one of your favorite Gino Ariema stories?
Well, I was a freshman, and our 2 All-Americans had just gotten hurt, Shea Ralph and Svetlana Brosimova. 2 just amazing seniors and people that I looked up to. And, I didn't play much my freshman year. I was kind of on the bench. I don't know what he was thinking. And then I walk into his office and, he's putting. He has this putter in there. He's always putting. And he goes, dude, there's no age for greatness. And that really just stuck with me for a long time. Because you always think you're, whatever, circumstance you're in, you think, oh, well, it's either experience or age. And he said, there's no age for greatness. And, I took that with me for a long time.
That makes me think about just what it's got to be like walking in as a player. You mentioned all the jerseys and the rafters for everybody that walks in, not just the pressure, but also the support. How much do you guys all lean on each other to try and figure out the ways to greatness for everybody that walks through UConn?
Oh, it's huge. There's this, there's this fabric that holds us all together, whether you played in the 90s and the 2000s and the, 2010s. And that extends to the men's side too. I mean, we share a practice facility, we share Gamble. There's this expectation when you go to Connecticut, which, by the way, have you guys been to Stores?
Diana, I live 20 minutes from there. I'm there all the time. Stores is electric.
So you love Stores. So you wouldn't understand this, but every time I go back and I drive to school, I'm like, there must be something special here to get 18-year-old kids to come to school in Connecticut, especially Stores. And, there's something about it that just, builds this great chemistry on basketball teams. And, it's special there.
As somebody who moved to Connecticut at 22 years old, I hear you. I get what you're saying. Feel you there. But you bring up Shea Ralph, one of your former UConn teammates. She's now the head coach at Vanderbilt. She turned Vanderbilt into a powerhouse, the number 5 overall seed this year. Michaela Blake's another one of the best players in the country. I talked to her about a month or so ago, and she said so much of her program is built on the DNA of Gino Auriemma. How have you seen that come to fruition? How have you seen a little UConn in Nashville, Tennessee?
Oh, I mean, Shay is probably the epitome of what it was to be a Husky. The way she treated practice every single day, the weight room, off the court, the way she took me under. She was actually my lifting partner my freshman year, which I feel really bad for her because one set turned into like 4 sets because she was spotting me on everything. So I feel terrible for her. But she's taken all those lessons. She was an assistant coach for Coach Auriemma, at UConn on the USA team. And her team just plays so hard. They're relentless. Every possession, and they have great talent there, and it's been really fun to watch her succeed this year.
All right, so let me put you on the spot then. I'm gonna have you build the all-time great starting 5 for UConn women's basketball. Obviously you're part of it. Who are your teammates on the all-time?
Wow, this question always just like this is it's the hardest question because if you leave not only do you leave someone out, but you forget about someone. They're like, how did you leave off Nikisha Sales? I'm like, Nikisha Sales, how did you leave off? Obviously, my starting point guard would be Sue Bird, obviously.
Of course.
I'm going to leave myself off this. I'm going to go Nikisha Sales, Maya Moore. I'm going to go Tina Charles and Brianna Stewart. I'm sure I left 5 player of the years off.
Yeah, that's the best bench in America right there.
See what I'm saying? Like, and off the bench, Paige and I will come off the bench. That'll work.
Man, that's 6th and 7th woman of the year right there. That's a scary bench.
Hall of Fame 6th and 7th. I'm like, that's just where you just put them all in. Just put them all in.
It's like you can't. It's like you can't go wrong, and then you can't go right either. It's terrible. It's that's a got me question. You suck.
I mean, look, I gotta look. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Diana. Like, I know it's gonna do well. It's gonna get us traction. Like, let's go. Come on, people are gonna be interested in it. This is perfect. What about the future? Do you guys? Because you mentioned earlier, Gino, is not going anywhere. It's hard for us sometimes to see someone that's done it so long and not think about what's next. Like, does there need to be a succession plan at some point for UConn women's basketball?
Well, I mean, the end is always near. And, as you get older, you always have to think about the future, especially a program like that. Those would be such big shoes to fill. If you think about what Coach Auriemma is, I mean, he built that program. People go there because of him. I can think back on my recruiting visit. I didn't go back because of the restaurants and, the nightlife there. I went because of Coach Auriemma. So, I mean, whoever takes that job is going to have a really big character, someone who is entrenched in Connecticut basketball in ways that, it's going to be really, it's going to be difficult. That's a difficult job once Coach leaves.
Big shoes to fill, no doubt. And I know we could wax poetic all day long about UConn, but we did just have a transformational day in the WNBA last week. We will, revolutionize this sport, and the amount of money that's now invested into the W. We'll have the first ever $1 million player in the WNBA. What does that mean to you as somebody who did revolutionize the W?
Oh, it's amazing news. What a win for the players, for the fans, for the owners, for the league. I think if you love women's basketball and you've loved the WNBA for the last 30 years, these are the type of changes we've been wanting for so long, and it's taken a tremendous amount of effort. And no matter what, when you spend 20 years at a company, you want it to be better than when you got there. And I think the news from this week is really going to propel the league into these heights that we've never seen. So I'm really proud. I'm really joyful for everyone, and we'll see how it goes forward.
It always hits me, though, Diana, that one of the craziest things about being even a legendary player in a sport as a woman is that you can't just be a legendary player. You also have to be a fighter and an advocate for the future. How exhausting does it get for everybody involved in this process that you can't just be a WNBA player? You got to be a fighter for the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, you step into this role and you think that the main goal is to be the best basketball player in the world, to work on your craft. But in reality, there's so many other things that come with that. And fighting for the future of women's sports, and especially, women's basketball, it's just something that kind of happens organically, and you just do because you want this league to be around for the longest time for the next generation. So does it get exhausting? Yes. Is it something that we're willing to do? Yes. And we're going to continue to do it.
Well, you are joining us on behalf of Greenies. Annabelle and Richie in my house are massive fans. Tell everybody what you're doing with Greenies and why they're amazing.
Oh, Greenies is the best. I mean, if you love your college team and you love your pets, Greenies is the way to go. It's such a great collaboration. Sometimes you get approached by a lot of companies and they don't make sense. Like, I gave my dogs Greenies. It's like you said, they're a staple in the pantry. Like, and it's just such a great partnership. And what better treat to give your husky?
It's amazing. It's just watching you give not only the actual husky, but the mascot husky. Both Greenies is perfectly done. Greenies are delight.
All Jonathans love huskies or love Greenies.
1,000%. 1,000%. Diana, we appreciate your time. We appreciate all your expertise, and thanks for everything that you've done for the game. And thanks for talking to us about Greenies. My dogs are eager to hear it, and they keep trying to go to the pantry. So we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
I love it. Thank you, guys.
Absolute
Take care.
Legend. Absolute
Thank you. Appreciate
legend.
it.
Coming up next, we saw some legends on the football field get their butts whooped. We'll tell you about it next.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, his speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
Do you feel pressure that this is America's birthday, this is the White House, you have to represent?
Hell yeah. I do feel pressure. I feel pressure that, I got to go out there and represent for the United States, and I got to go out there and I feel like I'm going to be expected to go out there and win this fight. I'll probably be a favorite. There's pressure right there too. I put pressure on myself. I need to finish. It's been too long.
Mike Washington, speed score wonder, good size, just downhill in a hurry, but just can never quite make that safety miss unless he just runs past him.
He blew up because of the combine, and people were like, wow, like, who is this? And he has everything that, sleeper running backs people fall in love with, the size, the speed. There's usually a handful of guys like this. In this year's class, there's actually not a ton of guys like this that maybe boosted his stock a round or so.
The Dallas Mavericks, are they still taking Cooper Flagg, Corey?
He is legitimately, as a 6'8" wing who does everything at a high level, shows up every day, competes his ass off.
The way his handle has improved since high school to Duke to now suggests that this guy can be a MVP candidate, not just a multi-time All-Star as a role player, a high-end star role player, but a mega star.
Joe Burrow got pantsed by his defender trying to grab his flag, and I think Bengals fans everywhere held their breath a couple of times as Joe was dancing around. But frankly, the flag football players that play the game every day were dancing around on the graves of the NFL players that were trying, because it was a total and complete butt whooping over the weekend. Team USA beats Wildcats and Founders in the Fanatics Flag Football Classic by a combined score of 82 to 27, and it didn't even look that close. The NFL players got thrashed, even though some of the highlights out there on social media were showing you otherwise. And Caroline, I think a lot of people owe Daryl Doucette an apology. You don't remember who he is, many of you. He was the guy that is a flag football quarterback for Team USA and came back and said, I'm better than Mahomes. And we all said, no, you're not. And then we watched on the field and we're like, oh, yeah, flag football is different than tackle football. And it turns out that our NFL stars may not be very good at flag football.
First of all, not the first time that we've seen Joe Burrow get pantsed on a football field. Very famously accidentally mooned a stadium full of 100,000 people in his day at LSU. So
Go
Joe
Tigers.
Burrow, get a belt. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, that's not a great look. It's probably not great for the egos of all of these NFL superstars, Tom Brady included, to get their butts whooped by a bunch of guys that we have never even heard of before. So not a great look for the NFL, probably not a great look for these players that are looking around like, wait, what in the world just happened? To your point, great reminder to all of us that this is same but different, same sport, but also wildly different sport. But Fitz, if we're not going to have Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, insert NFL superstar here, whoever you want to bring up in the conversation. If these guys aren't on the flag football team in the Olympics in LA 2028, I'm not interested. Like, I'm good. And no disrespect to all of these guys that are, who I can't even name off the dome because I don't even know who they are. They're lovely. They're wonderful. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for representing Team USA. I don't know what your names are. I apologize. I'm not interested. I want superstars. It's the same thing. It's the reason why having NHL players in Olympic hockey was such a massive deal, is because we had Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and the best players in the NHL representing their countries in the Olympics. It's the same reason why it's so fun to have KD and LeBron and Steph Curry on Team USA on the basketball side of things. It's the same reason why baseball will be successful in the Olympics, because we'll have Aaron Judge playing for Team USA and Shohei Ohtani playing for Team Japan, and we'll have Vlad Guerrero Jr. playing for Team Dominican. It's superstars that we know that we get to see on the biggest stages competing against each other, mano a mano. If I don't have Jalen Hurts in the Olympics and I have flag football player A, B, C, and XYZ out there, I don't think it's going to be successful.
Things just got really complicated for Team USA and for the NFL all at once, because this outcome now raises a million questions, to your point, Caroline. Number one, the NFL's already announced that they're investing $32 million, $1 million per team, into a flag football league for men and a flag football league for women. Obviously, they're doing that ahead of the Olympics, and I think probably if you injected truth serum in everyone's veins, they're doing it to try and prop up this league going into the Olympics, right? So part of it is flag football is going to have to create stars because they want to create interest. There certainly weren't a lot of people in the stadium during the course of this game. The NFL is going to launch this league. They want to make sure it launches successfully. To your point, the best way to launch it is with a bunch of superstars and some other guys that then all of a sudden we fall in love with in the process and we learn them, all of these things. The question now becomes, will NFL players want to commit what it takes to becoming great flag football players? It is different. And I talked to a couple of guys over the course of the weekend, and the one thing that keeps standing out is it requires different training. It requires a bit different skill set. It's going to require some time on task. Are NFL players going to disrupt their offseason training to get ready for this in the proper way? Are they going to put the time on task necessary to do this? Or are they going to hope, much like they did for this flag football initiative by Fanatics, that they could just step together on the field and play? This is where football is so different than, rolling out a basketball and playing in the gym. If we were all at the Y and suddenly, you saw 5 different NFL players, or NBA players, I should say, walk in to pick up basketball against the best Y players you've ever seen, the NBA players are going to dominate. We learned over the course of the weekend, it's not that simple in flag football. Just the ability to juke and make people miss to try and grab the flag, some of the moves, some of the ways that they get themselves open, it's just different. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at it saying, man, if NFL players don't put in the time, they're not going to be good. And the NFL doesn't want to put together an initiative where they don't win the gold medal. They need that. But the NFL also needs to win the gold medal with NFL players, I believe, to really catapult this flag football league into higher level of standing. So I think yesterday got really complicated because what's best for Team USA to win a gold might be to have a bunch of no names. What's best for the NFL is to have a mix of the two. But what's worst in all of this is putting your NFL players out there and getting your ass kicked. So it suddenly becomes a very cautious lose situation possibly for the NFL long term if they can't figure this out. The weekend just made things, Caroline, complicated for the NFL and their flag football initiative.
And I have to ask the question, how much do these NFL players care? If they don't care, I'm not going to care. And if they don't care, it's not going to be a good product. And if Tom Brady doesn't care about a flag football game, in all honesty, I don't care. Like, I don't blame him. Like, if Joe Burrow's number one priority is not flag football, good. It shouldn't be. Like I'm sure they're getting paid very handsomely, and I'm sure that they do, they want to be competitive. They're competitors at the end of the day. They want to win in a hopscotch and tiddlywinks. So, of course, they want to win in every single venture that they put themselves out there in. But Joe Burrow's number one prerogative is and should be winning a Super Bowl in Cincinnati. Jalen Hurts' number one objective is to bring the Lombardi Trophy back to Philadelphia. And those are correct prerogatives and objectives. Like, that is where their priority should be, not flag football. So if they're not putting, the time and the effort that it takes into, perfecting this craft, because it is the same, but it is different, to your point. The movements are different. The game is different. I'm sure the way that you see the field is different. If they're not going to put the time in to be really good at this and to be at the top of their sport, then it's not going to be an intriguing product. And I'm not up here saying that Joe Burrow's number one priority should be flag football. Frankly, it shouldn't be. So we're kind of in a mucky middle of this, of your biggest superstars in the sport of football aren't the biggest superstars in flag football. So where does that leave flag football?
Well, I can only, Charles Robinson told me a year ago when this first came up that teams around the league made it clear that there are players do want to win a gold medal. Not flag football. They don't care about flag football. They care about winning a gold medal. And the thought is that, they're only going to be, there's only limited every year an entire roster gets a Super Bowl ring. C-Rob said this to me and it's stuck in my head. Every year entire rosters get Super Bowl rings. Every 4 years, a limited group of people have a shot at a gold medal. GMs around the league are wildly concerned that, their favorite team, or their players, I should say, want to be out on there. And I think this is one of those things where, if you're the Raiders GM, you don't want any Raiders players out there if you can help it, but you may not be able to, right? So I think because it's additional injury risk. But to your point, I think there's a difference between I love the idea of a medal versus I'm going to do everything it takes to get this medal, even if it gets in the way of my day job. That's a much different situation. We've certainly seen athletes in major sports before try and participate in other sports because they want to try and get a medal. There's a reason why we don't often see the fastest guys in the NFL try and be track competitors. Maybe A, they can't, but B, the risk they take in that process would make it very, very difficult. So I think you're right, Caroline, that I don't know how much they care about flag football. I think they do care immensely about a gold medal, but there's a difference between I'm going to walk out and just get that gold versus I'm going to have to shut everything down and train for that gold. Do they care enough for that? I don't know. And winning anything less than gold would be a massive embarrassment for some of these players. Like, risk reward, if you're an NFL superstar and you come home with the bronze, you're going to get mocked for that, right or wrong.
I mean, I want six-pack abs, but I'm not willing to give up cheese. So, we all want things, but, are you willing to do what it takes to get there and achieve that thing? Cheese is delicious, and I love a charcuterie board. Sue me, okay? Nothing tastes as good as Skinny feels? Yeah. Yeah, right. I beg to differ.
Extra sharp cheddar feels as good as Skinny feels.
Tried feta cheese. It's amazing. It's incredible. I wonder if the best happy medium here that exists for the NFL and for flag football is, we just saw a photo of Odell Beckham Jr. We're looking at Tom Brady right now. Is that the best happy medium of players that are superstars and household names, but they are not actively on rosters? Like retired players or players that maybe the game has passed them by. They're either, a free agent or have been a free agent, or they're making veteran minimum. They're just kind of skating through their final years in the NFL, but we know them and they are superstars in this league. And maybe they can't play at the NFL level, but they can play at the flag football level, and they have the time and they have the want to put everything into this venture. Joe Burrow can't offer you that right now. Like Justin Jefferson can't offer you that right now. They are actively in their primes in the NFL. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. can offer you that.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe building a group of, recent NFL players that are training specific for this is a win for the league and a win for the launch of the flag football initiative. I will say this loudly. Flag football is inevitable. Like, flag football is coming. The NFL investment in it, particularly in women's flag football, is going to allow them to grow the sport. It allows them to get more women actively involved. In a world where we have Title IX to worry about in the college level, we're seeing more and more colleges across the country add women's flag football as a scholarship sport. Flag football is inevitable. It is coming as a sport that will be backed and it will be watched. The question is just, how do they manage this moment? And that's what we're going to keep our eyes on, because managing this moment the right way is what's really interesting. All right. From that, back to the NCAA tournament. 11 years ago, Duke won it all with one of the best backcourts we've ever seen. And now they both join the show. Coming up next, going to be electric.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture, when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
I have Sadiq at the top like you. That's not the surprise. Sam Roush from Stanford, who had the big combine, unlike a lot of college tight ends that are productive, he actually, in my opinion, is playing the position like a pro right now. I love how he rumbles after the catch. I like Sam Roush quite a bit, Nate, because I just love that I could put him on the line of scrimmage, and I think he's tough as hell.
I do want to ask you about your teammate Jalen Coker. Can you kind of tell the people about Jalen, the person, the player, everything in between?
The people love him, the teammates love him, the coaches love him. And you see, as the year went on, how much faith, how much trust, how much belief that Bryce has in him, that the coaching staff has in him. I mean, he can do it all. He has good routes, very physical. He plays inside, outside. I mean, he does pretty much everything, man. And the Panthers definitely got a gem.
We've talked a lot, in fairness, about guys like Joe Burrow that are frustrated with losing. You know that experience. What advice would you give somebody that is so premier as a talent, but is with a franchise that can't seem to find a way to maximize it?
There's no guarantee for any of us, right, at the start of the season, you're going to end up with a championship. If you're an elite athlete, you embrace that challenge, such a special, unique thing, right? Because the best players in the league don't necessarily always get there, but generally the best teams do.
They don't make college backcourts like Tyus Jones and Quinn Cook no more. That is the tweet. We're coming up with the 11-year anniversary of Duke's 2015 NCAA championship win over Wisconsin. Thanks to that backcourt in part. And they join us right now. We got not one, but two. We got both of them. One of the best backcourts ever to do it for Duke. Tyus Jones, Quinn Cook. Thanks, gentlemen, for being here. Quinn, let's start with you. Happy birthday. All right. So do you agree they don't make backcourts like that anymore? And happy birthday.
Appreciate it. There's been a couple good ones. There's been some at Duke. There's been some all over the country in the last 11 years, but not quite like QC and Ty, man. That's my guy right there.
Ty, did you get him anything for his birthday? What'd you get him? Come on.
I did. I told you it's a surprise. It's a surprise. But yeah, no, happy birthday, QC, first and foremost. Good to see my brother as always. And yeah, I agree with Q. I think what we had was special. I think we complemented each other extremely well. I don't think there was any box. As a backcourt, what you want your backcourt to be able to do. I think we checked off every single box, and then some. So yeah, I don't know if they make them quite like us.
Look at those babies that we just had there up on the screen. Probably doesn't feel that long ago, but Tyus, I do want to start with you. What did it mean for you to have a leader like Quinn on that 2015 team that did have a lot of younger guys like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it meant everything to me, honestly. Just Q's leadership, his experience. He had been there before, played in big games, played, under coach. So he was able to kind of keep me steady throughout the season. There's so many highs and lows of the college basketball seasons. You're playing well, not playing well, tough parts of the schedule, kind of more easier parts of the schedule. So he had just been there, and his leadership, was huge for me, and was a big reason why I was able to have the success, right away stepping in.
That's interesting to me, Quinn, because like he's talking about been there before. How much does that help you in the NCAA tournament, particularly handling the moment?
I mean, that's why you go to Duke. I mean, coach puts us in, situations all seasons, whether if it's pick up in the summer, when it's training camp, you got to run a mile, time, you don't make it, you got to keep doing it. There's so many pressure situations, even before the season, that we had to go through just to get us ready for the season. And then, you play Michigan State, in Indiana, and then you go to Wisconsin, who just lost in the Final Four and brought everybody back. And then just the rigorous ACC schedule as well. But then you go to St. John's for Coach K's a thousandth win, and then it's just so many games that we had played under the bright lights where, like, I knew our team was a little different because, Tyus, Jaleel, Justice, Grayson, like, they weren't your regular freshmen. And you can see, like, I remember my freshman year, if I was thrown into a big game like a Wisconsin, like a UConn, UVA on the road, undefeated, like, I don't know. Well, I know that I wouldn't have performed like Tyus did, like Jaleel did. So they were just different freshmen. Obviously, they had the pedigree and the resume coming in, but like we had just lost in the first round, so they could have easily came in like, all right, we're here now, we're here to save the program, blah blah blah. But they came in super super humble and just ready to work. And as a leader, that's all you really ask. And they were super competitive, and I knew from day one like we had a real shot at doing it. And obviously, everything fell into place perfectly. And Tyus took us home the last couple of minutes of the game, and the rest is history.
Yeah, Tyus, we just heard Quinn say like that's why you come to Duke because of the standard. You're going to get coached hard, but that's because the standard that Coach K set at Duke. It's also a standard that John Shire has continued. Had Duke in the Final Four last year, #1 overall seed. That's not easy to do, to be the guy that follows the guy. So when you watch Duke now and any experiences that you've had with John Shire, what are some of the differences between his coaching style versus what were used to and accustomed to from Coach K?
Yeah, obviously not being around the day-to-day stuff with Coach Shire, you don't know the actual ins and outs of, their practice schedule or how he kind of runs his film sessions and things like that. But from the outside looking in, just some of the sets they're running and actions they're using are kind of more NBA sets. I think he's trying to implement into their style of play, which is a little bit different than Coach, I think, but that also goes along with just how the game's kind of evolving. There's more spacing, there's a lot more shooting. In the game. And so you got to try to maximize, space and things of that nature. But at the same time, I think there's so many similarities. I think just being on top of the game plan, scouting their opponents, running their sets to perfection, everyone being on the same page. Obviously, the recruiting has been great. But yeah, I just think he's done a phenomenal job stepping in. I think there's been, no drop off, and I'm just excited for him to continue his success and to see, the trajectory of his coaching career.
All right, Quinn. So take me back to 2015. I want to get both of your thoughts on this. We'll start with Quinn. Take me back to 2015. When did you know you guys had something special?
Honestly, like it sounds good now. Like the first couple pickup games, obviously, man, I knew from day one, Yeah, all that sounds good, but honestly, when we beat Wisconsin, like the day of shoot around, just to see how loose and how just confident we were on the bus. We're joking like it's a regular game. Like years before that, like I don't remember my teams being that confident. Like honestly, like my sophomore year, we went to the Elite Eight. We played the champions, Louisville, and even then, like just bigger games, like we were kind of more serious. Like just we walked into the Wisconsin locker room like it was ours. Like not even trying to talk spicy or talk trash or anything. Like it's just we just were confident, and to have three starters who were freshmen who never played one of those kind of lights, it was refreshing. It was refreshing, and we kind of really beat them pretty good, on their home court. And then after that, like I was like, we got a real shot because I've seen three different teams. I lost in the first round twice. Like I said, I thought my sophomore year we should have won the national championship. So I kind of had a feel like what can be a good team, what could be a bad team. But obviously, it's about getting hot at the right time. But honestly, when we beat Wisconsin against that experienced team, I knew that we had a real good shot of cutting the nets down in April.
Tyus, same with
Tyus?
you. Did you have a feeling when you knew this team was special?
I would say it was probably around the same time. I think everyone, leading up to the season, we had a lot of hype. We knew we had the talent. And then I think the thing about us was everyone was extremely confident, not only in themselves, but I mean in the other guys in the locker room. Like we knew we had the best player in the country, in Jahlil Okafor. We knew we had, you go down the line and you got guys that have either had success in college already, like QC, like an Emil Jefferson, like a Matt Jones, or you had us freshmen coming in and, we're coming off of being McDonald's All-Americans and stepping into Duke ready to contribute. And we had, we knew we all could play. And so I think early on we had that feeling, but then when you start to have that success, we started out pretty hot, I think 11-0 or 12-0, something like that. And then when we went into Wisconsin, and kind of just had a real, I would say like a professional win. Like we walked in, we handled business. We stuck to the game plan extremely well. We executed. We played the Duke brand of basketball. From the jump to the final buzzer, and we just kind of handled business on a older Wisconsin team at their home court, in a tough environment. And I think that kind of told us like, look, we can kind of do something here this year. And that confidence, never wavered for us the rest of the year.
So let's stick there because I'm sure, that feeling of, okay, we're special and then actually delivering on that and winning a national championship. I mean, I can't even imagine that kind of feeling that gives you. And I'm
Yeah.
sure the connection that you feel to Duke. So looking back at Duke's first round game against Siena, I'm sure both of you were on the edge of your seats thinking, what in the world is going on here? Quinn, we'll start with you, and then Tyus, feel free to hop in afterwards. Watching that team and being there and living it, do you feel like that gave this team more confidence, kind of the kick in the butt that they needed, or did that reveal maybe some warts that this Duke team has?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you being the number one seed overall, everybody in the world besides Duke fans wants you to lose. So people don't really understand like the arenas. Like it's not just whoever the two teams are playing in that court. Like everybody in the region has access to all these games. So when a higher seed gets down, the other schools will start rooting for the underdog. So it's a lot of game pressure that happens, during these tournament games, which makes March so special. Siena, obviously coached by, a March Madness legend, Jerry McNamara. I mean, he had those guys ready to go. He played 5 guys. They came out free and punched us in the mouth. And, I was on a plane headed to St. Louis to watch my brother, Nolan Smith, coached Tennessee State in the first round. So I was getting updates, but I'm on a group chat with Kevin Durant, CJ McCollum, Seth Curry, and they're sitting there talking trash to us like, oh, y'all about to go down, y'all going down. And I was confident, man, because this team has been through some adversity this year, and we responded. I think Sienna ran out of gas just playing 5 guys, and we responded and made big plays. But I think, they kind of understand it's a new team, younger team. This team's never been together. So just that kind of kick in the butt, that wake-up call, like, man, look, we're going to get everybody's best shot. Everybody's hot around this time. So I think the team needed it, and I think we responded against TCU the next game. So it was good.
Tyus, what about you?
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Quinn said, I think there is some adjustment sometimes where the arena's different, the basketballs are different. It's a different routine. You get in such a routine where you're not able to get on the court pregame. You're stretching in the back hallway. So it's just a different routine that you got to kind of get used to and acclimated, and it can throw you off just a little bit. And some teams that have been there before kind of can hit the ground running and get that kind of advantage or upper hand early on. And I think it just took us a little time to settle in. And then you got a younger team when it's a closer game, that first day, they were probably shell shocked and kind of sitting there like, okay, we got a ball game on our hands. But we settled in and finally got to playing Duke basketball, and then I think they responded extremely well against TCU the next round. So we'll be ready to go next weekend. I think we're going to continue to just play better and better, and that's exactly how you want to approach this tournament.
All right, so given all the success you guys have had at Duke, obviously, and all the success you guys had in the association, let's meld it all together. I'm making both GMs, all right? We'll get both of you. Tyus, we'll start with you on this one. You guys watched it. Boo's getting all the love. I'm making you the GM. You got the first overall pick in the draft. Tyus, who are you taking with the pick number 1?
Yeah. I don't see how you don't take Cam Boozer. He does everything. He can shoot it. He's a one-on-one matchup nightmare. He can post up. He can take you off the dribble, face up. And then I think the thing that's extremely, extremely underrated that he's been showing as the season goes on is his passing ability. He's making the skip pass to the corner on the money to shooters. He's making the lob pass. He's playing, 4 or 5 pick and roll. He's hitting the pocket. So I think he's really able to do everything. And I think he'll slide in and fit seamlessly into any, NBA lineup and be able to produce and not have a weakness.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I would take Boozer number 1 as well. I think he's been the best player this year. I think he'll win National Player of the Year. Not just being so involved in AAU, but I've always just heard stories how he dominated his class. Like he's won so many state championships, so many Peace Jam championships. He has 2 losses this year. He won a regular season championship, won the ACC tournament, has number 1 overall seed. Just a pure winner. I know Peterson and AJ are really good prospects. Caleb Wilson is really good prospects, but I like the guys who just can come in and change the culture and get it done. No disrespect to those guys, but my guys playing. He got a game Friday. He made it through the first weekend, so I think that means a lot. But since Tyus took him off the board, man, and me and Tyus are the best backcourt ever, so I got to show a point guard some love. I'm gonna take Darius Acuff at number 2. He reminds me of Stephon Marbury, Trey Burke. He's been having one heck of a season, and he's putting his team on his back, man, and one of the best point guards Cal's ever coached. It's fun to watch him as well.
Gentlemen, we appreciate your time this morning. Quinn, happy birthday. Thanks for spending your birthday morning with us.
Happy birthday.
Eat all the cake, man. We appreciate
Happy
you guys
birthday,
hanging out with us
QC.
so much. This is awesome stuff for us to hang out with you.
Crazy.
Let us know what the gift is,
Not
too.
a day over
The present
21.
better be good. present better be good. That's all I'm saying.
For
Let
sure.
us know what it is.
We'll circle back.
We appreciate
We'll
you
circle
guys.
back.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
stuff from two legends at Duke. Absolutely riveting. Coming up next, big hire in college basketball. We'll tell you about it.
Criticism like that from a coach in the moment, how are you feeling when that's happening and the film's on screen?
Yeah, man, I think it's you listen more to the message and not the tone of the message. I mean, I think it's actually better to get called out than to not, because it shows not only like you're not worried about getting your feelings hurt. Like they're not worried about hurting my feelings. And that's something I love about our coach. Like he's not really worried about hurting your feelings. He's going to tell you, shoot it to you straight. And for me, like I've always thrived under coaches that do that.
We are ranking the biggest robberies in MLS histories, the players who looked at their team owners and said, thanks for the cash, and gave absolutely nothing in return. If your team is on this list, we are very, very sorry. Danielson, FC Dallas. His contract was for $879,000.
If you're watching this, look at his photo. He don't even look interested to be there in the photo.
With 10 appearances, he effectively got nearly $100,000 per game.
I'm sitting there watching Unreal, and they're talking about you in WWE at the Royal Rumble, just being thrown into the ring. You ever getting back in the ring for one of those opportunities again after that injury?
Man, I don't know. I mean, we got WrestleMania coming up, so you maybe see me in there, you maybe not. I'm just not trying to get beat up, but we'll see. We'll see. Like I got beat up too much times. My body can't take that anymore.
Little teaser from the one and only Nate Diaz. Unfinished business. And then he expanded on that on Twitter and said, I'll see you soon. I'm coming.
What about Dustin? Dustin versus Nate. Big fight. That could be a co-main or a main for a big fight card.
One that we always wanted to see.
One that Dustin has said, that'll get me out of retirement. The UFC could use him more than ever. They need stars now.
Syracuse legend Jerry McNamara reportedly coming home. This is a big hire. Like, look, I'm just going to be honest. Josh, one of our producers, big Syracuse fan, wildly excited for Jerry McNamara making a homecoming as it is reported he's going to head to Syracuse. This feels like, Siena gave Duke everything they can handle. And my God, absolutely incredible moment here where he gets to come back to a team that he loves. Caroline, this feels like synergy. I love every ounce of it.
I love this. I love when the stars align, that a coach can come back and coach for his alma mater, which there's a lot of pressure when a coach does that to, coach for a place that means something to them, so much deeper than just a paycheck or investment. But I also love that it comes off the heels of one of the most fun and unexpected performances that we saw in March Madness. I mean, Jerry McNamara coached a team of 5 guys that played the entirety of 40 minutes against the #1 overall seed in the tournament, and they led by double digits at halftime. They gave Duke absolutely everything they could have given them. And one reason why I believe that Jerry McNamara is ready for this kind of stage wasn't just the performance that his team put on, wasn't just the fact that his guys put every single ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that they could have out in the court in the round of 64. It was the fact that when Jerry McNamara was interviewed at halftime, he was bitching about how his team could have done more, how they weren't good enough, how they allowed too many points, how they left too many points out on the court. We're talking about Siena, a 16 seed, leading #1 overall seed Duke at halftime by double digits, and Jerry McNamara is picking out all the things that they could have done more or could have done better, what they need to improve upon in the second half. Now that is a good coach if I've ever seen one. So I love this pairing. I love that he gets to go home. And I think for Syracuse fans, not only do you get a red hot coach that showed how great of a coach that he can be and that he's ready for this stage, you're also getting a coach that's endorsed by Jim Boeheim, not just as a player, but as a coach as well. So I love this.
I love coaches with connections to the programs they're at, and that's real, and this is why I love this hire for them. Speaking of connections, we will always connect Kansas basketball with head coach Bill Self. He left the door open to several possibilities after the loss to St. John's, trying to figure out what the best solution is or what's next for him, I should say. as he said he hasn't decided. He wants to make sure whatever he does, I should say, he wants to make sure that he's healthy and in a situation where he can be successful. I sort of took it as a moment of reflection. I need to be able to do it where I'm feeling good and healthy to do it. Moment of reflection after a very tough loss. I'm not making too much of it, but to me, he did at least crack the door open to maybe stepping away, Caroline.
Yeah, and if he does step away, I don't think any of us should be overly surprised. Bill Self is 63 years old, and look, we're seeing Kelvin Sampson, coaching into his 70s. It's not like 63 years old is at the point where you have to retire. You need to step away. But look, he's one of the highest earning coaches in all of college basketball. He's made his millions. If he wants to step away, he absolutely can. And also, this is a new era of college basketball. The college coach's job in any sport has never been harder than it is right now. Bill Self might get to a point where he's just kind of over it. And also, I think it's important to point out that Kansas hasn't gotten past the round of 32 in the last 4 years. That weighs on a program, that weighs on a coach, especially with a program that has sky-high expectations. I don't want to see a legend of the game step away, a Hall of Famer step away from the game, but if that's what Bill Self is alluding to, I don't think that we should be overly shocked or surprised.
Those questions in those moments are important. They're inevitable. They're really required in press conferences, and I understand it. I thought his handling of it was brilliant and beautiful because in that moment where you just lost in the most heartbreaking fashion to another legend of a coach, it's certainly easy to act emotionally. Going home, taking some time, just recalibrating life. How many of us have to do that after a bad day at work? Now imagine having a bad day at work watched by millions of people and analyzed by everyone. Imagine your worst day at work where immediately afterwards you have to answer a press conference question about whether you're going to come back on Monday. I think a human element here to me says that Bill Self is allowed to and should want to go home and reflect on it. He shouldn't make any rash decisions in this process. If he steps away from the game, we should all be thankful for what he's given to the game. If he stays, it means we get more Bill Self, and I'm never going to complain about that. I get it, and you're right. He hasn't made it out of the round of 32 in 4 years, and that's not an acceptable result for Kansas basketball, but also the way that game ended. Man, you are fractions of an inch away from advancing instead to the Sweet 16. It's the way the college basketball world works. I get it, but certainly it would be easy to react emotionally. I'm not surprised that Bill Self didn't do that. I'm not surprised he's going to take the time to be reflective, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he steps back on the sidelines next year. Either way, I think he deserves the grace to make that decision on his time, his way. All right, that's not the only big news we had over the weekend. I don't want to brag here, Caroline, but got to show off my arm. I don't know if you saw this, but look, last weekend was my second IFL game. They had me throw out the ceremonial game ball. I'm in the press box there. They give me a game ball. I get this opportunity, right? All cameras are on me. I got to throw it from the game ball to the field, all right? Chuck it. Look at that. Look at that. Over
there it
is. The target.
Let's go.
So here's an honest moment. The ref came up to me before the game. Head ref, Mark, came up to me and said, man, just aim high. Like, make sure. They were so worried I wasn't going to be able to hit the field. And I said, look, it's a win-win. If I don't make it to the field, then it's my 50 cent, first throwing out the first pitch moment. It could be terrible. I'm not going to say I nailed it. I'm just saying I overthrew everybody. I told the guy to back up. The guy that was going to catch the ball, I told him to back up. He didn't heed my warning. I can't help this cannon.
That's what they get for underestimating you, Jason Fitz. That's what they get. Humble pie to see that absolute hose that you have. How is the shoulder feeling? Are we okay?
A little sore, not gonna lie.
You need to
shoulders
it.
a little shoulders a little sore.
Shoulders
a little sore.
I did. When you let it loose.
As you, I'm that old. As you see on the screen too. Met a great kid named Gavin. I actually tweeted out Twitter and social media. Thank you. You did a beautiful thing. They managed this blizzard last night. Did send me an email. We're connecting with Gavin. Gavin wants to be an announcer someday, and he was so polite and so kind. And it was such a whirlwind after the game. I didn't really get to talk to him. It turns out he's part of Big Brother's program. So I'm gonna try and help Gavin along the way. But just a beautiful moment, and what makes the Indoor Football League great. Caroline and I will be back on the Indoor Football League together in a couple weeks. I'll be back on the Yahoo Sports Network this weekend, calling a couple of games. So it's a busy time for the IFL that you can watch on Yahoo Sports. We are having a blast, and the Indoor Football League has treated us all so incredibly well. We're thankful, and I'm thankful I get to get out to Arizona this weekend. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We'll keep breaking down all the chaos. Thanks for hanging out with us. Come back. Watch us tomorrow.